Now, I want to start with a story that would be front page news. It would be headlines on CNN. It would be talked about everywhere. This would be the only thing we were talking about for the next several days. Would be. And probably there'd be buildings being burned and protests and everything. If not for one little detail. There's one little detail about this story that makes it go from headline news to nobody cares. And I'll play the video for you and tell me if you can spot what that little detail is. Watch.
Oh, boy, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Quit touching me. Yeah, don't hurt. Don't hurt. Stop moving.
Sorry, man.
Hurt.
I'm sorry.
Don't touch me.
Yes, the detail, of course, is the skin color. Reverse the races on that video, and you have breaking news everywhere. But as it is, with a white man being the one brutally assaulted by a black man in the middle of a Macy's, nobody cares. No attention paid to it. Well, I should say, people aren't paying attention to it now. But when the video first surfaced, it got a fair amount of attention, most of it approving. Because here's the background of that video. The scumbag carrying out the assault there is apparently named Demir Palmer, and his brother, DeMarque Palmer, is filming it. DeMarque also is an aspiring rapper, it turns out. DeMarque posted the video on his social media initially, proudly, claiming that the man being attacked, who's a Macy's employee, said the N-word in reference to them. And that's what supposedly led up to this assault. The employee called them the N-word, and then Demir assaulted him. And with that version of events, this video got thousands of likes and shares on social media, and most of the people sharing and commenting were approving of the assault. They were cheering it on. They were laughing. Now, before we get to the part of this story where it turns out that the N-word claim was a fabrication, it should be noted that even if he did say the N-word, that obviously doesn't justify physical assault. This is the kind of thing that shouldn't need to be explained. I really shouldn't need to add this aside, but that is perhaps the most disturbing thing about this whole event is the apparent assumption by many people that a black person actually has every right to brutalize another human being if that human being says a bad word. I mean, what kind of absurdity is this? A person says a word and that gives you a license to commit a felony? How so? Especially when you consider that the irony is that the N-word was said about 15 times in that 18-second video, but all by the guy carrying out the assault. So again, this should not need to be said, but no, you don't have the right, nor are you morally justified in assaulting someone because they said a bad word. No, not at all. Not even a little bit. The brother, by the way, when explaining the thought process, he was interviewed by the New York Post, and he said, quote, and just the fact of the remark that he said that we all heard, okay, and just what else are we supposed to do in this age and time? He didn't know what else to do. That was just his instinct, talking about his brother who's assaulting. What else is he supposed to do in this age and time? In this age and time, if he hears a bad word, he just has to commit a felony assault. What else is he? There's no other option. Okay, makes perfect sense. Thanks, DeMarque. Now, DeMarque claims that this all started when he and his brother were just innocently shopping together, doing a little, just the boys on a shopping spree, little boys' night out, and Demir says that he took a shirt off the rack and he put it up to his, he didn't put it on, but he put it up to his chest, and he said to the employee who was on the phone, does this shirt look too little? And then the claim is that the employee said yes, and then turned back to the person on the phone and said to the person on the phone, no one, just some N-word. Obviously referring, the person on the phone said, who was that? And he said, no one, just some N-word. He claims that the Macy's employee said this in the middle of the store, casually, while they could easily hear it. And that is obviously bogus. Just before we go any further and get to any of the details, if you have a moderately well-calibrated BS detector, it should be going haywire from a story like that. Sirens going off, blaring, everything. This story is completely ridiculous. It strains believability that a Macy's employee would be that casually and openly racist on the job, and somehow this is the first time anybody noticed. So all you have to do is think, think about all the times a story like this has been proven fake, and weigh it against the likelihood that a Macy's employee would say something like that in that situation or any other situation. And then when you perform that calculation, you end up with, by my estimate, approximately a 99.99999999999% chance that the N-word claim is false. And this was an unprovoked assault by two guys who selected the victim based on race and then assaulted him and recorded it so they could go viral as heroes for racial justice. A hate crime, in other words. A racially motivated assault, a hate crime. And yes, it turns out that's exactly what happened. Macy's has come out and said they investigated and can confirm this was an unprovoked attack. And we know we can trust what they say, because now is not a time when corporations are willing to go out on a limb to defend white employees, especially a white employee who said the N-word. If they actually thought he said it, if they had any reason to think that he said it, you could be damn sure they'd be throwing him under the bus in a second. But they're not. Because, they're going to have witnesses, they're going to have security footage. Not to mention, he's not going to be on a personal cell phone. He's going to be on a company phone, and those are probably going to be recorded lines. So if he was on the phone at all, which is possible he wasn't, and the security footage would tell them that, but if he was on the phone, they could just listen to the conversation and see what he said, hear what he said. So any number of lines of evidence could easily reveal the truth of this situation. So Macy's testimony, combined with the plain absurdity of the brothers' claims, combined with the fact that they have no credibility at all because they are the assailants in this situation, make it very clear that this is what they said is not true. It's a hate crime. Not just a hate crime. They assaulted him and then slandered him on the internet. They beat him down physically, and then they tried to ruin his life on top of it by putting the video online and saying that he said a racist word. So these are just two awful human beings. And this guy is a victim twice over. Yet, of course, the outrage is non-existent. That's because the left, as we have seen time and again, is not interested in racial equality, let alone racial unity. That's the last thing they want. This is not about defeating racism or hatred or bigotry or intolerance. Everything we're seeing now, from tearing down the statues to the riots, to the elevation of radical organizations like BLM, it's all about ideology, leftist ideology. And the ideology, in this ideology, the white man is evil. Always. All white men. Unless they're a communist or a gay rights activist. So those are the two exceptions. And I understand there's a lot of course, overlap in those groups that I mentioned. But with those exceptions, all other white men are evil. And it's really as simple as that. Inherently evil. You got to think, if you're a white man, by leftist ideology, if you're a white man, you're already inherently racist because you're white. And that applies to white women too. Okay. Which is why, for example, when a white woman is beaten with 2x4s at a BLM protest/riot, which happened a few weeks ago, and there's video of that. No outrage over that either. That's another example of something. I mean, reverse the races on that. Just imagine for a second. Really try to imagine this. Try to imagine a video of 3 white men beating a black woman with a 2x4. It would still be the only thing we're talking about. And that event would be used as proof of systemic racism for decades. They'd be going back to that for decades. Yet it happens with the races how they are, and it's just, it's unfortunate, maybe not, but we're moving on. We're not nothing to talk about. So you think about the situation a white man is in from the perspective of a leftist. Inherently racist because you're white. Toxically masculine because you're a man. So now this is a toxic racist person. Every single white man, with the 2 exceptions I mentioned. So yeah, you could beat him up, you can kill him, you can do whatever you want. it certainly can't be a hate crime. And really, it's not really a crime at all, at least morally. And this is not an exaggeration or hyperbole. This is really the leftist position. That for a long time they wouldn't state explicitly, but now they're starting to basically state it explicitly. And there is no other explanation for this dichotomy. For how, a video like the one that I just played for you could get no reaction from the left whatsoever. None. They just don't care, period. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.